This episode of Fire 2 On Air is sponsored by Earth One. If you're looking for repeatable, dependable scoring for all of your dwellings, why not choose Earth One as your opening favour tile? Hello, it's Ejay here. I'm happy to present another episode with another legend on the scene, Ranior, or Ryan. There's a lot to cover with him, but I was mostly really interested after reading a thread he posted on Board Game Geek to talk to him about his experience at the so-called World Board Game Championships convention. So this is actually going to be 2 episodes. The first one is we're going to talk about that and a bit more about the early days of Terra Mystica, especially for him. But then we actually went on and recorded for a long time, for like 2 hours in total. And in the second half, we were talking more about general stuff and his streaming on Twitch and Fire to Open. But that will get released soon as another episode. I'm also very happy to have a new co-host on here for this episode, Lizzy the Llama. You may know Lizzy as the intrepid sideline reporter from the Fire 2 International Clash. She was reporting to the casters and bringing the insights from within the teams and did a great job with that. We might do a bit more of an introduction to Lizzy at some point maybe, but there's a little bit in this episode talking about where she's coming from. But for now, it's just really nice to have her talking with me to Ryan. It's quite a long conversation. Like I said, it's going to be 2 episodes, but I think it's all good stuff. So thanks to Ranior for his extremely generous time, and I hope you enjoy it. Two great new additions to the podcast show, Lizzy and Ryan at the same time. Awesome.
Well, just so you guys know, I just woke up like a little while ago. So I had a very long travel day yesterday and went to bed very late. So this is going to be really fun.
Where are you? Are you in the pond of sacrifice or the school of gold? Where are you today, Lizzy?
I'm in a very scary place called Louisiana.
Oh wow, yeah, that's mental. even wilder than the Chaos Portal. So it's Ejay here. You mentioned, Lizzy, that I didn't introduce myself and everyone else last time. So here we go. I'm Ejay. Got Lizzy. Hi, Lizzy.
I'm Lizzy.
And we have another big name, another great player and a great Twitch streamer, Ryan, or Ranior. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So what I wanted to talk about mostly today was kind of the early days of Terra, because that's something I basically don't know anything about, because I heard of the game almost exactly a year ago in lockdown. Like I hadn't really heard of any board games apart from like Catan up to that point.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. I'm very new to it all, but I'm loving it. How about you, Lizzy? I guess you're relatively new to it as well?
Well, I actually started playing Terra in person like many years ago. But I haven't played it as much as any of you guys. And I only just recently played my first game online. So, you guys are way ahead of me on this one. I actually started... I started watching the F2O because I actually know Chris Bizzle in real life.
Ah.
Yeah, he told me about it. And so I started watching it, and I just got really into it. So that's how I was introduced to this community.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've just gone on your BGA account. You have one game played. Is that right?
Yes, I played a game with Chris Bizzle, and he he used all three of the international clash teams. I think he used like Team USA and then two of the other teams to play 3 factions against me. so we were doing a 4-player game, and he was playing 3 of the factions. He was like trying to teach me how to play Terra online. So he was like, I went way over time because he was trying to explain, okay, here's how you do this, here's how you do that.
Well, in that case, you do a remarkably good job of reporting on it then. That's very impressive.
Oh, thanks.
On the Clash.
And actually, I got 3rd place in that game. So technically, we can say that I technically beat Chris Bizzle at Terra Mystica at least once.
You beat a third of Chris. Nice.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's interesting. So yeah, the what inspired me to ask Ranior about this was I found your thread that you posted, Ryan, about the 2018 World Championships in person in. Did you say it's in Portland or?
It's in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I don't know why. American geography. Opposite side of the country. Anyway, yeah, and I thought it was really interesting, and I wanted to sort of find out more about that. But we can also talk about kind of general stuff, and it might end up. I don't know how long we go for. With NerdCube, we recorded for like an hour. This today, if we talk about more than just historic stuff, it might end up being 2 episodes. I think. I don't know. I might split it in half, but we'll see how we go. If that's all right.
Look, you should know that bringing me was a little bit of a dangerous proposition. I'm willing to talk about a lot of topics for a long time. So
awesome. That's good. Yeah, I've got time.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you, Ryan or Ranior, because every time I see you casting or talking on a video, you just you seem like such an awesome guy, so friendly, and so this is very exciting.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that, but don't think that you can just gloss over the snub that you gave me in the past and like act like we're buddy buds.
Wait, what snub did I give you in the past?
Whoa, don't even remember. Wow. Somebody created a list of the top 10 hottest players in F2O, and not even an honorable mention.
Okay, actually, it was top 7, just to be clear.
Top 7.
Fair enough.
Wait, okay, okay, fair enough. I guess I didn't put you in the top 7. Maybe I should have.
No, it's fine. It was obviously a joke. If anybody hasn't read through it, it was very humorous. So yeah.
You know what? I should just make a new top 7 list. Every single person on it is just going to be you. It's going to be Ranior.
No. Your content that you've posted ahead of some of the other games has been very funny. So yeah, that was good. But
no, I had a lot of fun with that list. Obviously, the whole thing was ridiculous.
So, and the other thing I was going to mention, Ryan, is that you played my real life friend Lockie91 on stream the other day on your qualify. It's the game you qualified, and I was talking to him about it yesterday because I mentioned I was going to talk to you today, and he said he was extremely tired, and then he watched the stream back after, and I think he took like Air 2 as dwarves late in the game, and everyone was just like, "What is he doing?" But his excuse was that it was extremely late in the night / early morning in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said that on stream. Like, he basically mentioned in the game that he was starting at like 2 a.m. and then he already wasn't thinking very clearly. And then, he played dwarves in a tough spot and things didn't go particularly well. And then he started making some questionable things, but he was already losing. So, we didn't dwell on it much. Like, these things happen. Sometimes you just have games where you just kind of know after the first couple rounds it's not going well, and if it's that early in the morning, God, I would not be playing. Well, that late at night for me. Early morning is my peak time. So if we could just go back to that international Clash game at 9 in the morning, 9 a.m. like Eastern time, that was good.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Because I was you were casting and I was recording.
I was casting, yeah.
Yes, and we had to start the game at 7 a.m. my time, and I am not a morning person, so that was rough.
Yeah.
So, diving into the history, did you start playing, Ryan, like from when Terra first came out? Because it came out in 2013, is that right?
That is correct, but I did not. So this is, I was going to say, this is pulling me in is slightly interesting because I'm actually not like an original. I wasn't around right at the beginning, and I didn't start playing until 2016 or 2017. But you're not entirely wrong to bug me about these things because I have a pretty good memory and I've read way too many forum threads and integrated myself. And then ultimately, I guess it is a little weird too, but the community on BGA and stuff has grown, and I have always been around ever since BGA got Terra Mystica. And I guess at this point, I am kind of the old guard, which don't quite know when that happened, but yeah.
Because when the Snellman site, that TM tour has been going since sort of 2016, 2015 kind of time, is that right?
Yeah, so going way back, the game was Terra Mystica like first got released at Essen, quickly sold out, had huge accolades. It took a while to get into the hands of a lot of people in the US. Anyhow, some people really started enjoying it. They started doing play-by forums. As best I can tell of the history, Juho Snellman joined that first play-by forum game. They just were trying to take screenshots of like things and trying to list out their orders. Juho basically was like, "This is getting tiring. I'm literally just going to program some shit to run," and he essentially created what we now know as like Snellman.net. I mean, it took him quite a while to like build up to that point, but a lot of the early play-by forums, they basically used his moderator. Like he would use the site, he would input the orders, and it would like, display game state that helped them all keep track of the games. And then over the course of a year, he added on, tons of features to allow people to actually log in, input their own moves, additional upgrades, and then yeah, after a year or so of that, TM Tour emerged with the help of gosh, I don't remember his name, but it's like Bijalitz or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's not active anymore. But he helped set up this TM Tour system that's awesome. It's pretty much automated, and yeah, now we're in whatever season 40 something. I joined in season 17. But yeah, it started up in 2015, I think.
And so when it started up, are you an Agricola boy at that point? Are you playing your Agricola around then?
I was just playing a lot of different board games. I've grown up with playing a lot of stuff, but Terra Mystica was a game I always wanted to play, but I didn't own it. I didn't know really how to play it. Like, I didn't just go wander online to play it, and so I got it I think I got it as a Christmas present in 2016, and I think my first game then was like early 2017, and then I popped in to TM Tour right around then, which season 17, early 2017. That sounds about right.
And you've talked before about how on your stream about how you kind of you're not that interested in like skimming the surface of a game. You want to like really go in deep and learn properly like how it works and how to basically get good at it, right?
Yep, generally. I occasionally will play games, and just explore, but I'm not. There's definitely some gamers in the community that want to just try a lot of games and they just kind of play a little, but I tend to be playing games to find ones that I want to play hundreds of times. And then once I find those games, I want to play them hundreds of times. I want to dive deep. I really want to explore. And so Terra Mystica very quickly took my interest. So I played in person, and then I was like, this is an incredible game. I need to play more. Played it a little more. Had to find a way to play it online. In those days, the only option was to pop onto Snellman, and so I played a lot of games there.
Yeah, I find that interesting because joining and playing only recently, it's kind of like going straight to the good stuff, like I've not played loads of other games, and then I just joined BGA and Google like best games on Board Game Arena, and top of the list is Terra, and I'm like, oh, try that one then. And then so I guess I haven't like experienced the wider spectrum of games and all other stuff there very much.
That's so funny that's the way that you discovered Terra Mystica.
Yeah, like totally. It's just like we played Seven Wonders, and then I was like, oh, I wonder what else is on here, and then just looked at the list, went straight to the top.
Well, it's funny how I discovered Terra was so I was in a board game club at the time at my college, and I was friends with Chris Bizzle, and one day he we were trying to play games, and he was like, listen, there's this amazing game, you have to play it with me. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he like pulls out Terra Mystica, and I think I ended up, for my first game, I think I ended up with a score of like 95 or something like that. But yeah, it was really fun. And I mean, obviously I feel like that was probably 2015. And so he's obviously come a long, long way since then. There's no way he could just play random people at a board game club, and I don't think they could compete with him anymore. I mean, with any of you guys, since you guys are such like elite players.
Yeah, that's where some of the other formats come in, teammate stuff, maybe like to introduce new people.
Right.
Yeah, otherwise you introduce them and you're like, I want to show you this game. I will beat you, but maybe you'll get the bug, and then in like a year's time, you'll be really good too.
Yeah, like here's the game. Come back, play me in a year, and we'll see who wins.
Terra Mystica is a little tricky like that, but you're a bit lucky that you picked this game to dive into. Then the other reason that I wound up diving pretty deep into Terra Mystica and continue to be this interested is because there is the community's only grown and like gotten crazy, but the Board Game Geek forums back in the day were they were fairly active, and there was good strategy discussion, and there still is some, but there's obviously a lot more resources nowadays. But that also is part of what like attracts me to this, and a few other games have like really kind of big communities and some tournament scenes and other stuff, and that is also part of what really attracts me to diving into certain games.
Yeah, Lockie actually is a data scientist by trade, and so I found we started getting more into it, I was like, Lockie, there's threads where people have like done crazy R analysis on like the effectiveness of Earth 1. This is awesome. You've got to look at this. You've got to like get this data set and start trying to analyze it as well.
Yeah.
So you you got the game and you were playing in person, and then you were looking at Snellman as well and playing on there and sort of learning strategy. And so then what motivated you to try and do this world championship game? It was something you said you were like you'd been wanting to do for a while, right?
Yeah, so just in general, as we've talked about, I do enjoy like testing myself competitively. I enjoy tournaments. I enjoy playing games deeply. And I had gone to Gen Con for 1 or 2 years, but that's very much a trade show. It's mostly showing off new games, people just trying games. Most gaming conventions I go to, that's really what it is. Most people are basically playing games. For like the first time, they're going to like learn new ones or get experience with games that are otherwise hard to schedule and stuff, which is fine. But I find games take on a really magical quality when everybody knows the rules, when everybody kind of loosely knows the strategy, and you're able to like really get into this next level of playing a game. And that's a hard experience to find at gaming conventions, which is a bummer to me. And it's just hard to find in person. It's relatively easy to find online, which is great. But anyhow, I had looked and wandered, and I had heard about this event that has a bit grandiose of a title. It is the World Board Game Championships, but
that's like a common joke about Americans, right? Is you have all the world championships, which are all in America, and no one else plays.
Exactly. I mean, we have the World Series for baseball, right? Like that's exactly how you should view these World Board Game Championships. Like there are people that come from other countries, but it's mostly USA. And it's not like there was any like, it's not like there's regional tournaments for these games that like feed into the World Board Game Championships. Anybody can register and show up at the World Board Game Championships and play. But anyhow, the great part of that convention, aside from the slightly grandiose name, is that you just get to, they run tournaments in about 150 different games. It's a week-long convention, and you don't have to like sign up ahead of time. You just wander up to an event and you play in a heat, and basically if you win during a couple of heats, you can advance into the semifinals. You win the semifinals, you play in the finals, and if you win the finals, you win the event. And so in 2018, I finally went to WBC, went for the whole week, had a great time. Terra Mystica was a tournament that year. And this is about a year and a half into me playing Terra Mystica. I showed up there. I was pretty good on Snellman. I wasn't an incredible player, but I was a D4, which back in those days, D4 was also pretty intense still. I was able to win at the 2018 WBC. I won the final against a couple other decently good players. Mikechike, I met in person there. Mike Asante was at that final. Who's still quite a good and strong Terra Mystica player. There's nobody else really at that table that's like well known, but
wait, so I have Ranior, I have a very important question about this championship. Did you get a trophy? Did you get anything?
Absolutely, yeah. So the WBC gives out plaques. So I have a first place plaque in Terra Mystica.
You did post a picture. There's a picture of it in this thread, right? I think.
Yeah, in this thread. So I have a tendency to, just streaming has been good because I enjoy talking. In the old days, I didn't stream, and so I tended to share my thoughts in long BGG posts, which I still do. But yeah, so I've wrote a decent session report of my quest for the 2018 World Championship, there's a couple pictures, a little bit of recap of the game, and just some other experiences. So it sounds like we'll try to link that for others. But it is a fun read if you're interested in experiencing that through my eyes.
Yeah, I just opened up the thread, and now I see the plaque.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, WBC's policy is that they never want to actually like have cash prizes or anything, which I personally am really for. I think board gaming, like I really like the community, and if the only thing on the line is a plaque, people tend to have pretty good sportsmanship and stuff. So
right,
yeah, it becomes a whole different thing if there's like financial incentives. I hadn't thought about that, but that's an interesting point.
yeah, I mean, if there's $1,000 on the end of the line, like even in this last F2O game, right? Like somebody undid, which technically is against the rules. Nobody really cares, and it's fine here. But all of a sudden, does that start to get, do people start to get a lot more crabby about it if there's money on the line? Probably.
Yeah, if there's money on the line, I mean, you could try to secretly, I don't know, watch the Twitch chat somehow and see if they have better ideas than you.
Yeah, that's actually for sure a point too. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Or the other thing that like it'd be pretty easy to do if I really was feeling like, I mean, I think this community is luckily there's not, but yes, if more money was on the line and stuff, like Chris Ho and Zoris aren't playing this year. Could I just convince Chris Ho to join a voice chat with me while I'm playing my games? Like
maybe not Chris, but Zoris would definitely do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, neither of those guys would ever do it, but whatever. Exactly. Like the board gaming world right now, like it's fine, but once things get to money, I mean, I think the Magic like tournament scene has, you hear about more intense cases and stuff. So I enjoy the laid back atmosphere of the whole general tournament gaming because you don't really get that many tryhards or anything. People are pretty free about giving advice and being friendly and all that while still trying to play very well, and that's the right balance that makes all this really fun. And that's what I find at the WBC, and that's what I've found in Fire 2 Open. So.
By the way, if you guys are hearing barking, I'm so sorry. I keep having to mute myself so that the barking doesn't come into my microphone. But I brought my dog to my parents' house, and he obviously this is our first day here, and he's just having a little trouble adjusting to this to new people being around. So I'm really sorry about that. I hope you can edit out any barking. I'm sorry.
The editing fixes all. It's fine.
I was gonna say my dog's usually gonna be good for one session of barking when somebody walks outside my door or something. So
I actually assumed that was Loki that I was hearing.
No, it hasn't been yet. He's been a sweetheart, but
yeah, it's all good.
Oh, your dog is named Loki?
Yes, my dog is Loki.
Loki's famous. Twitch famous.
Yeah, so one of my Twitch channel rewards is that if you spend enough channel points, I will give Loki a treat on camera on your behalf. So
he's a very good boy.
That's a great deal for Loki.
It is limited. You can each person can only redeem it once per stream, and only up to 2 people can redeem it per stream. So it's there's a limit, so he doesn't just get 10 treats in a day.
Okay, so that makes it an even better reward because it's rare. You know, it's a limited commodity.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, there's a few things like reading through that World Championship stuff that you wrote that kind of caught my eye. So one of them is that like you played on revised bass, for example, which now is like sacrilege. But you played in the heats and you basically got some easy wins, and you I think you played Cultist and Nomad. I bet you can remember it in very much detail, right? You're the kind of person who would be able to.
My memory on all this stuff is pretty good. I don't remember, to be honest. I don't really remember the heat games specifically because they were not. It's the sort of thing that after like round 1, you can already tell that none of these players are actually like particularly good. This happens a decent bit at WBC. There's a lot of good, strong players, but there's also just like a lot of people that just enjoy going to the convention and playing games. And in Terra Mystica, as we talked about, like it's a little tough. You can't. If you're just a casual fan, you stand no chance against experts. Whereas a lot of other games, there's at least more lucky elements and some other stuff. Like you have a much better chance of occasionally getting wins. And for the record, Terra Mystica is actually no longer an event at WBC, which is sad. WBC runs on a system where, based on how many player hours a game gets, it potentially qualifies again for next year, or it gets replaced. And I think Terra Mystica did partly die out due to that dynamic. I just think a lot of the kind of lower and middle class of Terra Mystica players just stopped playing at WBC because they knew they didn't stand a chance. And it makes sense. Anyhow, so yeah, that first year, though, those 2 heats were not a problem. I did remember, the other way that WBC works, though, is people have to bring their games. And the event's in Pennsylvania, and I was in Wisconsin, and I traveled there. Like I couldn't bring my games with. So anyhow, I'm sat down at a table with this guy that they understandably, when they got the Fire and Ice expansion, there's that revised base map board. They just assumed that meant the old base map board was never needed again. And so we're sitting down and like, well, the event called for us supposed to be playing on the base map, but we don't have it. So yeah, I guess we have to play on revised. And so that was a little funky to me because I had played very few games on it, and it is subtly enough different. But I mean, again, ultimately against weaker players, just knowing the basics of how to play Terra Mystica were enough to easily move me through that game. And then the semifinals were pretty intense, but I got a nice win.
The semis have like the really interesting thing is there's like this really to like a modern eye a really crazy auction system where as far as I can tell, I mean, feel free to explain it, but I
no, you're completely correct. Yeah, it's what we're so used to an excellent auction system, and the auction system that was used here was just from the Fire and Ice rules, which I think is pretty bad.
But you could. So from what you wrote, everyone voted for factions that they wanted to go in.
Oh God, actually, I know you're right. That's how they ran it that year.
So it was like everyone voted for 5, so not 4, but 5 factions that they wanted to go in, which I think you said ended up being Chaos, Engineers, Darklings, Witches, Halflings, I think. But then you don't know when you're bidding which of those 5 are going to be in the game because you bidded like a set number of points that you were going to give up.
Yeah. No, you're correct. God, I'm remembering this. I argued with the GM about this, and it was changed in the future. But yeah, that year exactly, we all voted, and then the top 5 factions were the ones that could potentially be played. Then the way the auction worked is we would bid, just going around the table, just increasing victory points until somebody eventually just won. Once they won, they picked a faction and a seat, and then they were out, and then the rest of us would keep bidding. And so yeah, you didn't know for sure what 4 factions were going to be in the game, which obviously like sounds insane to us nowadays, and it was, because that changes a lot of how you're going to bid, like depending on how sandwiched you are or not. And so, God, yeah, that was nonsense.
Yeah, it's funny you reading about it, and I think like the Engineers got bid, but then they get color sandwiched, or they get Witches in the game, and
it winds up Darklings, Chaos, Engineers, Witches, and so yeah, the Engineers are just sandwiched and screwed. I'm Darklings, and I'm just don't have color neighbors, and so yeah, I mean, predictably with good play, that was enough, but
and in the semis, but. So that's very weird to a modern eye. But in the semi-finals, it looks like you took Darklings and you took Earth 1 and you made a Sanctuary round 2. It was like a sort of as you would expect to play a Darklings game now. I'm talking about it like it's ancient history. It was only 3 years ago at this point. But anyway, it's interesting comparing.
It was a pretty basic Darklings game. Yeah.
And then the final, you've got like a really good, again, like I love the way you go through it all and write about it in a lot of detail. It's great, but it's like a round 3 spades game. And also in this one, you're playing with the mini expansion and with variable turn order, because that was new as well with the Fire and Ice expansion, right?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, variable turn order wasn't even a thing in the heats because it's not part of the official rules of the game, which makes enough sense. But yeah, oh God, you reminded me of certain details of this that I shouldn't remember. Oh, what a weird day.
It sounds fun because it's like a hodgepodge of rules in some ways, because suddenly you're playing in the final with the extra town tiles and with the ship score.
Yeah, we didn't have extra town tiles in the earlier games either, which I do now remember that was also a thing I had to like slightly get used to, because like making towns is a little less exciting when, the town tiles potentially can run out. Like, oh, what a weird little dynamic that we're so not used to anymore.
Yeah, but then the rest of it is kind of you took halfling. You basically say like you'd like halflings, and then you didn't bid, but you got halflings, and then you also managed to get them in first seat, which you end up saying like, "Oh, I'm so happy with that."
Oh yeah, so that was the weird. That was like the other weirdest thing. Like, so with that auction system, again, you would bid, and you would get to pick your faction and then pick your seat order once you like want to bid, and for whatever reason, the everybody there was convinced that being able to be 4th seat and picking your bonus tile was the best. And so people would win the auction, pick their faction, take 4th seat, and then 3rd seat, and then 2nd seat. So yeah, I wound up getting halflings for free in 1st seat. And so like I got the first upgrade, which like to me, being in 1st seat, as we've argued, like has a decent amount of extra advantage, because you get that first upgrade, you get the extra leech, and then more importantly, you just have tempo throughout all of round 1 on the most important power actions and other things. Like you're in the position where in 1st seat, you have a much better chance of like just taking double dig and still being left Earth 1 in some games or anything like that. And so yeah, I was very happy because I kept bidding during that auction, and I was like, I mostly throughout that whole auction, I just wanted halflings. And I just kept not really being willing to bid for them though, because the other factions like were definitely reasonable. But yeah, I was very happy to just get a free halflings. I did some decent round 3 spade nonsense. Built a sanctuary in round 4, got water 1, built trading posts in round 5. It was just a very smooth game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like how you played it sounds quite normal, but it does end up being like quite close. I haven't actually written the scores down, but you sort of win by 10, 15, 20 points, I think.
Oh, it's like, yeah, it's maybe like 10, maybe a little more. It was very close between 3 of us. Mikechike got 3rd. He played a very good close game. The guy that got 2nd wound up getting 2nd the next year and is also like a pretty strong live player. But I did win by 10 or so. But
yeah, which is cool. Like, it's very cool to see you have that, and yeah, you've got your little shield. Well, yeah, whatever it is about these world championships, but it's a very cool thing, especially, you know, I've never really done like live stuff like that, so it's quite it's good. It's really good, and I do love, because I when I was starting to play, my sort of go-to YouTube stuff was Lumin's all-player stuff with yourself, Lumin, Junior, and Mikechike. And so then reading that you're like, oh, the other player was Mikechike, and he's written up a little report as well, is quite like a nice reveal for me.
Well, yeah, so for people that don't know that history, I guess, and maybe you didn't even fully realize, but the reason that like Lumen ran those all-player commentaries with us is because we all met at WBC. So specifically in 2018, we kind of all met a little, but Lumen wasn't playing Terra Mystica yet, really, nor was CS. And so I didn't really run into them much, but we kind of all knew each other loosely because of WBC. And then, yeah, in 2019, we all played in Terra Mystica pretty heavily. And then, yeah, when Lumen kind of started doing some of those streamings, that was our crew. And we still like to play games with each other because, yeah, we just all know each other at WBC, and we're all very much looking forward to getting back to that event and getting to play a bunch of stuff in person again. But so, yeah, that little foursome is because of this event.
That's cool. That's cool. And so, yeah, so obviously Mike is still playing and sort of in the community, but you mentioned that, yeah, some of the other people are strong players, and I think some of them were playing on Snellman. Are they still like in the scene, on the community?
Not particularly. There's not a lot of other like well-known Terra Mystica players that were actually playing there in person. There's a handful of others that played a little on Snellman, but they're not really anybody that anybody like really knows or recognizes. And then, yeah, the guy that took 2nd in both 2018 and 2019 plays a little on BGA, but not much. And he, I think, tried to get into Fire 2 Open, but hasn't qualified. He just doesn't play a lot of online games. I don't quite even know how to say his username, but it's like MNYKM or something close to that. I can't quite remember because it's not a real word. So, his name's Matt Hattrill. He does a lot of stuff through MSO, which is another gaming tournament, and he's quite a strong gamer overall. The only other Terra Mystica player that I know at WBC is Nick is my name. He's been more active recently, and he's a very strong overall gamer, but he didn't play much Terra Mystica at WBC because one of the difficulties at WBC is scheduling. There's so many tournaments, you can't play all of them.
Yeah, you mentioned you were like rushing around from some other game you played, and you had to like get over for the heats, and yeah, it sounds quite fun.
Yeah, it's great, but yeah, I mean, there's just like a schedule and there's blocks, and it's just like, well, at 10 a.m. you can go to this heat of this game or this, and then once you qualify for semifinals, you got to go there. And anyhow, so Nick never really played in the tournament much itself because it just didn't time out well for him, and so he prioritized other events.
And then I'm sort of interested to get your thoughts on, first of all, the different standard of like a live game like that. Like, as mentioned, I've never actually played Terra Mystica live. Like, I've not seen it or anything like that. I've only played it online.
Oh, so you haven't played it in person?
No.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm not like touched a board. I've like never like held a dwelling in my hand.
There are, to be fair, there's a decent number of players that have done that. But yeah, that is just like, that is so foreign to me.
Like for me, it's almost weird to think of it being played in real life. Do you know what I mean? Because I've
fair.
just never, like, I can't even imagine. I can get an idea from the pictures, but I can't even picture like the size of the board. I wouldn't know. Like, I've got this desk in front of me. Would it fit on there? I can't picture it.
You don't know. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My quick tip then. One of the things you're gonna struggle with the most when and if you ever do play in person is keeping track of your victory points. BGA does it automatically for you, but yeah, that was actually one other thing. Like in that tournament, like some people were not great about making sure to take 2 victory points every time they did a dwelling or all these other things, right? Like it's pretty easy to miss little handfuls of victory points in this game. So
like when we were starting to play it, me and my real life mates were saying like, I can't imagine you would even want to play this in real life. It's so complicated. And because at that point, I guess we didn't. And now I kind of know the rules well enough that I feel like I could run a live game maybe. But at that point, we still didn't really like understand how it all works. We're like, how could you do? How could you like run this and like make sure everyone's playing by the rules? It's a crazy thing.
Well, once you play it in person, you're just going to hold the dwelling in your hand and it'll just be this hallelujah moment.
Well, this is the thing is I've considered, even though I may necessarily not play it in real life, I don't know. There's a lot of games once everyone's vaccinated and stuff, I'm keen to play now in real life. I don't know if Terra is one of them, but I have considered just buying it just to like own it and have it as a thing because I've spent so much time on it.
Well, if you have friends in real life who will play board games with you, then you can drag them into it.
Yeah, and they all play. A lot of them we've played Terra online,
Okay.
But I kind of, so this is the thing. I kind of feel like I'd play Terra online with them when we're not together, but together there's like other games I'd kind of like to play more. Does that make any sense?
Yes, because I mean you've already played Terra with them so much. It sounds like that maybe when you're together with them, you want to try something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the live play is a thing, and so I'm interested to get your thoughts, Ryan, on what this like is the standard different in a live game to a and like an online game where you've got all the tools, you've got your network, which I know that's also something there's contention of should you be able to see your income and all that stuff, or should you have to work it out yourself? And then also, again, it's not that long ago. It's 2018, and the Snellman was going strong, and people had understood the game. But recently, it feels like there's been a lot more competitive play. So, do you think the standard in general has moved on since then, or is it similar?
Okay, so you kind of have 2 questions there. You're asking a little about the player base's like overall level of quality and play, and you're also asking about just is there like what are the differences between live play in person and live play
Yeah,
online?
like if you played a live game now, do you think you would be less good than if you played an online game, I guess?
Well, so I actually think I would be relatively unaffected, but this is a little bit of why I do argue about I don't really like all the like I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon that doesn't use income displays and I don't use the tool that's out there that lets people, just like manually input what they're going to build and it tells them how much it costs. I still run all those calcs in my head and stuff. Like I still play the game a little more as if I'm playing it in real life while I'm playing it online. I'm not making use of the digital tools as much. And it depends on how you view it. Like, it is a digital game now, and it exists in a digital realm, and it's fine to make all those calculation edges. But I do think a decent amount of the community would find themselves struggling a bit in a real live game because they haven't practiced being able to run calcs really quickly. They haven't practiced having to make sure to pay attention to network anymore. They don't have to practice worried about adding up their incomes from all the various sources and paying attention to that. Like in a real live game, you have to be able to like quickly glance over and be like, oh, can witches take, the 7 coin actions that start next round? There's nothing telling me if they have enough power. I have to quickly add up from whatever sources they have. Like all those are tiny little skills that matter if you're playing over the board. And they're kind of boring skills, right? Like I get why we eliminate them in a digital world, but I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon that I kind of would prefer BGA to have less auto calculation, because I do think running a bunch of that minor little calculation stuff is part of the skill of the game. But I also, whatever, I think part of the skill of some games could be argued to be memory elements, and I also prefer Through the Ages to not have that or stuff. So
like not having to do card counting and stuff.
I can card count if I want to. I just don't want to. So like in Through the Ages, I don't want to have to, like in Through the Ages, if you pick a card off the row and put it into your hand, it's no longer publicly visible by the official rules, but I can probably remember what's in your hand, especially if I'm focusing on it. So why not just play open hands, which is what they do at WBC. But anyhow, so I'm also a hypocrite is my point. So whatever, people can use whatever help they want ultimately. But yeah, I think playing in person does come with some extra little challenges and stuff. I think I am still about as strong of a player digitally or over the board. I think some digital players would find themselves slightly struggling. As for the overall quality of play, Snellman has had a pretty high quality player base for like a long time. I don't think there's been huge changes there. If anything, I think TM Tour has gotten a little easier over the years, just because a lot of other like really strong players have kind of moved on.
Yep.
But on BGA, oh my god, it's crazy different.
Right.
Even just like versus a year ago, it's pretty different. But versus like 2 years ago, it's a whole different world. BGA first got Terra Mystica maybe like 2.5 years ago, roughly now, maybe already 3. In those early days, I was there. Like I was doing some of the initial bug reports when it first got added. And then the only other like really good players were like Zorus, FireX, CS. There were not many good players, and there were a lot of really bad players. And those days were, those were completely different. About a year ago, I think it was still relatively easy to like. It was a little bit tough to like get pretty strong tables, together. And then the community's been formed up. I think just there's a lot more streamers now. There's the whole F2O has popped up in the last year, and all those resources have really helped people get a lot better. And there are nowadays there's such a strong class of like good to great players. It's actually at the point where like when you're in arena too, like I don't think it's that like you don't wind up in that many games that are just like crazy soft tables. Like there's almost always like some pretty good players roaming around, which is great. And it's a lot easier to get tables of like all experts and stuff. So
yeah, it's just that sort of so not necessarily like the top end level has increased. It's just like a broad player base of like you say, sort of the good to expert, the strong in BGA rating, I guess, kind of level.
In BGA terms, there's a lot more strong players. There's even quite a few more experts. The very top level has probably gotten a bit better, but I think Nerdcube and me and Zorus still have room to get a bit better, probably, but I don't think there's a lot of play there anymore. I don't think there's anybody that's gonna come, crazy smash through that type of skill level, and I don't think Zorus or I have necessarily changed a heck of a lot from when we were playing on BGA 2.5 years ago when it first got added.
That's really cool. That's really interesting to sort of hear your thoughts about that. Especially as someone who has been there at least since the start of BGA, and then had all these, because I mean the pandemic was there's a graph of like matches per day or whatever on BGA on their like usage statistics, right? And it just shoots up.
That's what I've been wondering is like, has there been like a Terra Mystica renaissance because of the pandemic, you know?
Oh, I would also argue for sure. The pandemic kind of was a blessing in that regard.
Right.
There's been way more players that have found their way here, like Ejay himself here, right? There's so many others we can list. Like F2O, I felt like when I was writing those previews, I felt like every other player I was talking about, I was like, writing that, oh, they're basically like one of the quarantine kids, like they found their way on.
You know, Ranior, when you were talking about, you know, tables of experts, that just reminded me of that you were on Team USA for the International Clash. So, you know, what was that like? I mean, how is that, you know, playing as a team compared to, you know, playing as an individual?
It was really fun. It was really interesting. I'm glad that Chris made up that format. Trying to work with like 4 other really strong players was mostly easy, actually. Particularly on our team, like we tended to all view the game in pretty similar ways and agree on stuff, which maybe was a slight problem because maybe it'd be better to have some more diverse opinions. But
yeah, that's interesting.
It was fun to be able to collaborate with people though, and have some people focus on slightly different things, and all of us, you know, be worried about slightly different stuff and try to, as a team, work through what was best. But yeah, I mean, then it also was just crazy because then you're playing a bunch of other teams that are that strong too. I definitely think the quality of play was improved, like, which maybe I got to take back my earlier statement that there's not that much skill ceiling left, because I do think the overall quality of 4 experts together did reach a new level of play that no individual is really playing at currently.
Yeah, could an individual play at that level? It's like a interesting question.
I agree. That's the follow-up question, but
Like, you know what I want to see is I want to see a tournament where half the players are on a team and the other half are individuals. I want it to be like the individuals versus the teams, and I want to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That does sound pretty fun. You gotta. I think Bizzle got his 2021 F2O schedule planned out, but 2022, yeah, we need the Titans versus the teams.
Oh my god, I love that. The Titans versus the teams. We're gonna have to talk to him about this.
That was actually quite a good idea. Like the Team Canada Invitational, and everyone goes up against Team Canada after they won, and see if you can beat them individually. Because you kind of had that in the, like, when teams were doing the warm-up matches, right? They were playing against individuals, but I get the impression that they weren't. I mean, you can speak to it, Ryan, because you were in it, but I get the impression maybe they weren't at their like top level when they were doing those warm-up games, maybe.
Well, that's an interesting thing. One thing Team USA didn't really do is practice games. We didn't really believe in it. We did 1 or 2. The other teams did way more prep.
Okay.
Maybe that was a mistake, considering what happened.
I really don't think so. Like, I mean, whatever. We put up a very solid performance overall, and then in the final game, sure, we took 4th, but whatever. Like,
I'm not trying to hate on Team USA.
No, I agree. We could have done better, I guess, but in the overall scheme of things, like, if you take all 6 games that were played and then like add up everybody's finishes, you know, in 6 games we all did about as well as each other. There's a few teams that did a bit better, but I'm not sure it's even statistically. Again, like, it's tough, right? These tournaments are really fun and they're great, and ultimately Team Canada won. Kudos to them, but I'm not convinced they were the best team necessarily, right? I still,
yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, we'd have to play 50 games or something to get to the point where we can really see the skill differences. So yeah, I mean, that's never going to happen. So
teams versus what are we calling it? Teams versus Titans.
Yeah, or Titans versus teams.
Titans versus teams.
That was my pitch for Bizzle. Yeah,
that's such a great title.
Get some of the best individual players and then let other people form teams and see who emerges.
Right. The question is, like, each game, would it have 2 teams and 2 individuals, or is it like 3 individuals against 1 team?
I have no idea. We're coming up with this format right now. We can do whatever we want.
We should, forget about Bizzle. We should just create this our own, team teams versus Titans.
This is the Fire 2 on air show, Lizzy. We are beholden to Bizzle. We can't just splinter off like this.
No, Chris, I'm kidding. Forgive me.
We're talking about the clash there. You also mentioned the Mind Sports Olympiad.
Yeah.
What is that? And because there's this kind of there's this like world that I'm aware of, which is like Fire 2 Open, International Clash, and Snellman stuff. But then there's the World Board Game Championships, which is live. But the MSO is played online. Is it always played online?
No, so the MSO is much like WBC. So WBC would be in the World Board Game Championships. MSO is a similar event. It's the Mind Sport Olympiads. It's held, I think it's in London, but I don't know because I've never actually gone in person. It's in Britain.
Oh, well, get me down there.
You should check it out. I know about it loosely through some of these connections. Anyhow, last year, because of pandemic, they went to an online format and they basically ran a bunch of tournaments in a variety of games. And last year they ran a Terra Mystica event somewhere in August. I participated. It was a good time. I got third. I think it was Halai that won, and it might have been I can't. The top 3 places were all like pretty strong players that are recognized, but. I can't remember off the top of my head there. I'd have to check. Anyhow, the MSO is going to be digital this year again. It's going to be online. And then I think in future years, they're going to go back to having in-person events, but they might also continue running digital tournaments too. I'm not sure. That's up to them. And I have only loosely talked to them through the grape to stuff. But anyhow, this year they're going to run one again. So people that want some more Terra Mystica fun, I'll try to post about it as it gets closer. But the MSO will be running a Terra Mystica tournament sometime in August. Basically, I think it's one day. They're going to run 2 or 3 games. You play in those games, and then the top players will come back the next day for semifinals into finals or something like that. I don't know if they have the exact format figured out yet. But, there'll be another fun little tournament. I'll probably play it, assuming it. I don't know because I don't know if I don't think they've put set dates out for it yet. But good time.
Okay, we will leave it there for now, and then return later on with more of the conversation with Ranior. Thanks, everyone.